Hello and welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicated to discovering the people who make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview local business people, community leaders, artists, entertainers, and we will learn from them all about their successes, their failures, and their connection to Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brooke, broker and owner at Billings Best Real Estate. And today it is my pleasure to have as my guest James Wright, who is the owner of the Billings Kettlebell Club. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, so kettlebells. Let's start with kettlebells. Some people call them kettleballs, which we were joking around. What are kettlebells? Let's start with that.
Just looks like a cannonball. That's why they call it that all the time. I understand. So it looks like a cannonball with a handle on top.
Well, and if you can see your shirt, that's kind of the how it looks. And they can range in weight from little baby ones to massive ones that weigh over 100 pounds, right?
Oh yeah, 5-pounders. We have one 5-pounder that we kind of joke is a paperweight, but it does serve a purpose.
Sure.
We use it. It's just got a really small handle, and then up to 114 pounds.
Wow.
Each. Yeah, we have pairs of those, so they're fun.
Oh my gosh. Well, years ago, I was working with somebody on some deadlifts, and this coach had these huge kettlebells. I think it was like 120 pounds. And he goes, well, go ahead and warm up with that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So, I just did a sumo kettlebell lift.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, that's great. At least you know the proper form. I could tell by the way you're moving, you did it right.
That's funny. Well, let's talk about Billings Kettlebell Club. So what does it mean to have a kettlebell club?
Wow, that's a pretty complicated question, but what it means is that we've aligned ourselves up with the right team of people who really understand the body, how it moves, how it's not supposed to move, and how we line our workouts up with kettlebells according to the congruency of the body's joints and the movement patterns. And so the RKC community has really opened the doors and the eyes of many people, around the world to discover the potential of their body, how their body is supposed to move and be activated on a regular basis to prevent injury, to bulletproof your body of injury, and to be just ultimately strong from what I call the inside out, because we really work on your inside first, your core, but also your inside mind and your mentality toward your body, toward nutrition, toward resistance training, toward what you're doing through this process of incorporating fitness into your life.
Well, and you mentioned RKC. What is RKC?
The original acronym stood for Russian Kettlebell Challenge, but it got developed and was brought into like being a certification, Russian Kettlebell certification, because that's literally what you go through is 2 days of training, 8 hours a day. And actually the third day is half training and half testing. But it's pretty intense. They fail 30% of the people, and it's very costly, and they really don't play around with putting people out there who really understand it and know how to help people. And so originally it was Pavel, and he's a guy from Russia.
Yes.
Russian Special Forces.
I've heard of him.
I got trained by in 2011, and he was pretty cool to have as an instructor. I really enjoyed him. He was harsh and hardcore, kind of like my style a little bit. Not harsh, so I didn't enjoy that part, but it could have been a little bit more flexible on a couple of things. But I really enjoyed it a lot, and it really got me started on the right foot as far as being understanding and firm with people, because you get stuff from everybody. You can learn what to do, or maybe sometimes what not to do.
Well, and way back when in the Soviet era, the Russians were known to be incredible strength athletes.
Yeah.
Now part of it was maybe they were kind of playing around with some of those illegal substances, but nonetheless they trained really hard.
Yeah.
And so kettlebell was something that they were doing, and I think the Western world wasn't so used to doing work with kettlebells, right?
Yep, absolutely. Pavel and John Duquesne with Dragon Door first really brought the awareness to America of what kettlebell training I mean, it was already here, and then people are already aware, but he
Sure.
really brought it to the forefront of, you know, getting people to really see it as a mainstream form of training, and really expanded it into what it is in America today, I believe. You know, there's a lot of other people who've contributed, you know, significantly to, you know, Anthony DeLuzio is another guy who really, you know, made a significant mark in the world on, you know, just educating people on the diversity, the motion of the kettlebell is unlike anything else. It can be, you know, transferred around your body left to right, and you never have to even stop if you don't want to, and you can't do that with any other tool.
Well, right. I was just thinking, like when you do barbell movements or even dumbbell movements, I mean, you're pretty much on a static plane. I mean, you're not going to be swinging around with a barbell. I mean,
not as
you
much.
could
You know,
really,
do
you could really
cleans and
hurt yourself.
snatches,
Yeah.
But then there's a limit.
But you're
how many-
still going in one plane. You're not like spinning around. And I mean, I've never seen it anyway. I would think it'd be dangerous.
Yeah.
So I just got me thinking, how is kettlebell different from other kinds of resistance training?
Well, a lot of the kettlebell training, you know, is really developed on your staying power of your lats holding your shoulder, you know, packed in the socket, and holding it down and it staying there and being locked in. And so you are doing range of motion, of course, with presses and rows and all kinds of different things that we do. But when you're, you know, swinging a kettlebell, the range of motion becomes in your hips, you're hinging. And so we really get your whole body working properly from the middle, from the center. You know, your glutes and your hips are the most important area of your body as far as strength and stability in your core. I mean, if anybody ever has a lower back problem or a hip problem, it's lights out. It's tough to deal with.
Right.
And so we really take care of that part of your body first, and then you learn how to engage your core from the center as far as feeling the tension, and not pushing out necessarily with your activation, but drawing in. And it's just a fun and really cool style of training where it can be as intense as you want, you know, pushing your resilience, or you can really, you know, use it as a true strength training tool, and it's dynamic and unlike anything else because of how it wants to be like a live animal on its own. It wants to move and it wants to manipulate you, and you have to really hold to your position and really just honestly be focused a little bit more, I think.
Well, a couple things come to mind. First of all, when people think core, a lot of times they think of doing like sit-ups and or maybe some planks. But what you're talking about is just really deep muscles, including your back and your glutes.
Absolutely.
And your abs,
it's
of
all
course.
your core, all the way around. So anything that involves your lower back, your whole back pretty much is part of your core. You know, into your transverse abdominis, like your internal weight belt you have up here.
Right.
You know, it wraps all the way around. And that's why hip flexor issues often stem from and relate to your lower back. You know, and they talk to each other back and forth, because when tension is created on one side, it causes the other side to react a certain way. Then that side reacts back, and then you have a battle going on, and then you have.
Well, that is so true. I have many times have had back pain, and I think it's my back. But really what I find is that when I can work on my hips and stretch them out, all of a sudden my back pain goes away.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all interconnected, and it
yeah.
sounds like the kettlebells really help you dial in on how things are connected.
Yeah, they really help me understand mobility. I mean, this is, you know, I went there in 2011 for my main training with Pavel, but I already had other training with Mark Rifkin, you know, in 2010 before that. And they really help you understand mobility. It's all about mobility. If you don't have mobility and movement in your joints and in your body properly, you're not lifting correctly. You're not doing the motion properly, and eventually there's going to be parts of you that break or that come up tight or that come up challenged, and you're going to have to then address that. So, I mean, what really I find the best thing I discovered through RKC is lifting and training is not just about pushing a lot of weight, and it's not just about being just strong, because strength without mobility is weakness. Because when you're tight, you're weak, you know, or at least it appears that way. And people oftentimes think, oh, I'm just so weak, when really they're just tight because there's no movement in the joint, so there can't be any strength, much. So it's a real fun thing to help people discover how strong they really are, and their potential was hidden there the whole time. They just were living in a really tight, bound up body.
Well, and as people get older, so I mean, I know for myself, I've been pretty active most of my life, and so I don't have as many issues as maybe I could have.
That's great.
But I do see a lot of people that have challenges even doing simple life tasks like getting in and out of a car. And even at my age, I mean, people my age sometimes have real trouble walking a little bit.
Using their arms to get out of chairs.
Yes, or just like having knee issues or, wrists that hurt. And some of it's arthritic, of course, but then there's just like their joints just don't move.
Yeah.
So how do you get started if you are like maybe in a bad situation? I mean, obviously you're not going to be picking up that 120-pound kettlebell to start.
Right.
But what do you recommend for somebody who's maybe stiff and sore and just doesn't have a lot of mobility?
Well, first thing I recommend everybody to do is get in touch with your body and start discovering where you're really tight at. So get on the ground and spread out your legs and try to sit up tall and see where you feel things at. You'll really start to discover where your tightnesses are at. And if you don't have a foam roller or have never discovered what a foam roller can do for you, then you're missing out huge, and you need to get a foam roller for your house. And maybe a couple little devices to help you work out some of those tightnesses and sorenesses, like we use lacrosse balls, and they're really great. Put them against the wall, and you can roll in some really specific areas where the foam roller kind of gets a nice general area across the back, across the whole body, but other areas. So, get in touch with your tightnesses. Don't just neglect them and avoid them and think they're just going to go away on their own, because they won't. They'll only get worse. And so kind of that honesty thing with yourself first. Where are my problems at? And then just don't try to lift them away, but we need to also get stretched out, and sometimes we may need a little bit of therapy on some areas that are so tight or so maybe a little bit broken that you discover needs a little bit of help getting back to neutral, because we want our body to be neutral. That's what we're fighting for. Everything's about being neutral. Neutral spine, neutral position with your whole body. That way we don't have body parts fighting for space.
The other thing I've noticed in myself and other people is sometimes you just compensate for something that's like, we'll say, stuck. Maybe you injured yourself years ago, and for whatever reason, you just limited that range of motion maybe in your shoulder. And so then all of a sudden, when you're trying to lift something, your shoulder's crooked because it's not used to moving.
Your trap is all fired up, and you got a big trap over there.
Yeah, something's not firing right. And obviously sometimes people need physical therapy, but sometimes just kind of making themselves move in new ways can release some of that too. Can't it?
Absolutely. Just some simple, I take everybody through a mobility warm-up when they come in. You can't come into the class unless you go through proper mobility warm-up, and it's a step-by-step process in foam rolling, and teach you how to do that. So when we do that at the beginning, we really discover so many of those tightnesses and things that they may or may not have been aware of, and they're like, wow, okay, so how do we get this loose, and how do we get this to work properly? And then the discovery of that for people is really eye-opening and really empowering. And so that's what it's really about, is awareness. We're teaching you about awareness with your body, awareness with your environment, awareness with food intake, awareness with what we do with ourselves every day to promote health. Or you can't win the battle of time. Time is against you all the time.
No.
So I know.
It's like a car, even if you take the best care of your car, eventually it is going to be 50 years old. And
so we know we have to be moving in a positive direction, otherwise we're going backwards.
Right.
There's no such thing as standing still. So we have to take active steps toward moving forward on a daily basis. And that just means good nutrition. First of all, what you put in your body is really, really important, and we know that it's more challenging to find great healthy food these days sometimes when we just don't know how it's made. So we do have to seek out the best possible food sources for ourselves. And I always recommend just anything you can get out of the ground, or go around the outsides of the country, or have the grocery store, because then you're not going to go through the middle with all the preservatives. Get the stuff on the outside, the meats, the vegetables and fruits, stuff like that.
Right.
So nutrition plays a huge part of it as far as how you feel every day, and it really does matter. You know, what kind of protein, how much protein you get. People far undereat the amount of protein they should get every day. And then they fill their nutrition up with other things that usually make them feel bad or feel worse and add extra weight because they convert to fat easier and things like that. So, you know, I'm definitely a carbohydrate guy. I eat them a lot. But there's limits and there's types that you can have that'll make a big difference in how you feel every day. And I think that's a really great place to start, is start some flexibility routine, start eating more protein, quality protein. Don't skip breakfast. Don't just have a shake for breakfast. I believe that starting your body off on the right, you know, foot with good food right away is a huge deal to how your body's going to react to you the rest of the day and how your metabolism starts working. So breakfast is breaking the fast from sleeping all night, and we need to kind of keep that in mind. So, you know, just really getting yourself on track with the basics is what it's about, and understanding you don't have to make this complicated. We need people to move better. We need people to be stronger. Ultimately, you know, strength is going to be for you supporting your structure, for you to perform your daily activities like you're saying better. As you mentioned earlier, just, you know, getting out of the car. I want to see people getting out of chairs without using their arms. I want to see, you know, strength happening, strength being promoted in their life. That's what it's all about. I don't really push people for bikinis, and, you know, I do some bodybuilding and some training for myself, you know, and I do it with a few clients who want that, but I don't live with the idea that that's what everybody's after. So I really push people to just be their healthiest in their daily life for what they need to do. If they're on the farm or if they got to do stuff manually, they got to be a little more, you know, with it. And I think that everybody has a place in their life they have to really, where they engage. And they have to be with kids. I mean, moms, I mean, forget about it. There's all kinds of physical labor going on there that you need to be strong for. I see a lot of injuries happen from holding kids out here, and their arms get tweaked, bicep tendons and rotator cuffs. So there's different things to watch about that kind of stuff too. Just, you know, strengthening yourself so you can do everything in your daily life without being burdened.
Well, even things like I'm traveling today, and one of the things that we have to do is shove your suitcase over your head. And
hey,
so
can
many
you do this for me?
Yeah,
you know?
so many people just can't. I mean, I notice that so many people just are a little bit unsure how they're going to get it up there.
Absolutely.
And this is a funny story. So the last time I traveled, it was in the Billings airport, and I came in, and my partner he had a different seat. We got split up. So this first one, so I came in and I got moved up to first class, and I had my suitcase, and this man jumped up and grabbed my suitcase and just was like taking it. I'm like, I got it, but it was fine, but he just assumed that I wasn't able to lift it, which I thought was kind of entertaining. But
I love to see people do it themselves. You know, watch people do it themselves, and you know, those are eye-opening moments, I think, for them to either discover how good they are, and how strong they need to be.
Well, and it's kind of an awkward movement because you're like this, and if you don't hold yourself right, you could tweak your shoulder too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, learning how to lift properly is a habit, you know, and it's something you learn just by doing it, you know, faithfully, continually, you know, time and time again, with pressing bells over your head with one arm or two hands connected to a ball. You learn how your lower back feels. You build that core strength within yourself. You build that awareness so that you do it properly when you do it in the real world, like in an airplane and stuff like that. That's what we do the workouts for. That's the only reason why we work out. Is so that you can perform your daily activities better.
That's cool.
So you can function properly from the inside out, and if you so desire, to look a certain way. You know, however you want that look to be. I'm all for coaching you to burn fat and be more muscular, but it's up to each person's own process and their own level of health.
Well, some people just want to feel a little better and, you know, maybe be a comfortable weight. I mean, they're not looking to be, you know, super ripped or anything. And
I think that's great. As long as they're healthy, they can perform their daily activities well. They can do, you know, body weight stuff. Body weight stuff is really where the rubber meets the road, per se, with every person. You know, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. That's why we have like military testing for people with body weight stuff. so that they can handle and control their own body. Every person needs to have control of their own body, and that's the main thing that I want to help people accomplish, is control it, because then we know that there's two things happening. Strength is being gained, and body mass is being controlled, meaning whether it's reducing fat or increasing muscle. So our body composition is being altered, which is what we want.
Well, and the other thing, as you get older, if you're not actively doing some kind of resistance training, you will lose muscle over time, and then all sorts of other problems can happen, from osteoporosis to, just like we're talking about, not being able to get up out of a chair even.
Yeah.
And more people, I think, get injured when they're older by falling, breaking a hip.
Balance.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a huge cause of injury, which eventually, like if you break your hip, if you're 80 or 90, chances are you're not going to recover from it.
It's tough.
Yes.
Yeah, it happened to my client. So yeah, accidents do happen.
Right.
But you need to be prepared for those. I mean,
but when you're younger, if you think about it, like if I fall off a curb when I'm younger, I'm going to
bounce back,
just adjust,
Yeah.
and maybe the worst thing that happen is maybe I twist an ankle and fall on my hand.
Yeah.
When I'm older, I might not even catch myself. I might just come down like a tree.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a part of it. It's like your balance, your agility,
Yeah.
your strength.
Absolutely. So one of the exercises I never stop with people, as long as I can keep lunging with them, I'll do lunges. 'Cause it's super important to separate your legs and gain that sense of balance and that strength in that different position, and walking forward while demonstrating your strength and balance is really a key thing. And we have devices where we assist with lunges and stuff like that, so really you don't have to know how to do it all on your own right away, and maybe you're that
Sure.
unstable, and
Somebody's
so,
a beginner, you have ways
absolutely.
to progress.
Yeah, but that's super important as you get older, because after the age of, like, I think it's 30, 35, 40 for sure, you're swapping a pound of fat for a pound of muscle every year. So you may stay the same weight, but you're becoming squishier and squishier on top, which is kind of like, not muscle underneath and then squishier on top. It becomes like a skinny look, but it's kind of like a skinny fat, because
Right.
you have a fat layer on top that's there, and it's kind of, I'm the same weight, 135 since high school. I'm great, but it's swapping muscle for fat as you get older, and you have to have that muscle to stabilize the joints. And you know that things are getting harder and you're weaker. You just kind of, dance around it and don't really be honest. And so I think really the key is, through this whole thing, is reflecting on yourself with that honesty and with what kind of help you really need. And I mean, we all need to do it. There's nobody out there anywhere that doesn't need to resistance train. There will be a time in your life when you have to take care of yourself. It's whether you want to or whether you have to, that you're going to have to figure out what kind of energy do you want to do. You want to pay now or pay later?
Yeah.
You will pay the price, though, I guarantee, for gravity and time and oxidation and all the things in our environment. You will pay the price. There's no way around it. So
how did you get started in kettlebells?
I've been training and lifting since I started dabbling around in my bedroom with my dad. Got me a weight set when I was like 12, and then 16 got a little more serious, and then 21 started doing a little bit of bodybuilding, just because I wasn't wrestling anymore and wanted to be competitive still and keep my body being pushed. And then I really liked it. I beat one guy, so I was like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna see what I can do. And I'm not a real big person. I compete in the lightweight category, but it really helped me discover that I had that kind of potential, and that was fun. And then as the years went on, my buddy John Devitt, he's a great friend of mine, one of my very best friends, grew up here, and we grew up lifting together and stuff. And then he moved away to California, but then he said he was traveling over to Minnesota for this RKC training, and he's paying like almost $3,000 for it. I was like, wow, that's quite the intense commitment, man. I mean, you're traveling a long ways and you're paying a lot of money for what? What are you learning? And I was so confused and really kind of, I don't know, just really intrigued by it, actually. And he kind of showed me what they'd taught him, and I thought, man, this stuff is gold. This is gold. I was a fool for thinking the way I was about, kettlebells can't be for, mainstream training and things like that. But yeah, I really got my head turned around by it, and I was thankful for my buddy John for just, showing me that, and And so that's how it started, and I went to my first training in Arizona and got my HKC, which is kind of like the beginning version of it, and I just was hooked on how they showed me everything I kind of learned in school through my degree, but with practical application and real life function, you know, and it really opened my eyes to like how to apply the knowledge in some of the areas that you learn in school, but they don't really teach you how to use it sometimes. And so it was really exciting when I first got connected with RKC, and you know, my buddy John is pretty much the dude who did it for me. Yeah. So I mean, you just go through those phases where you're not really sure what you're even looking at, and that's what I want to help people to do, is discover,
right.
like I did. I was like, nah, this stuff's not for, you know, me, and what can it really help me with?
Well, and you can evolve, right?
Yeah.
Just because you liked bodybuilding and using whatever barbells, dumbbells, machines,
yeah.
doesn't mean you can't evolve and use a different tool. You're still
right.
getting resistance
Oh, yeah.
training, and I think sometimes people get too stuck, and then they maybe get like bored with it.
Yeah.
So there's
Agreed.
many options
Oh,
for
yeah.
training.
So I trained for 20-some shows over the time I've done bodybuilding, and I've been doing them all with the regular gym.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about 2 hours of training a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week sometimes, and it was cumbersome and it's involved, and that's what you do when you're in that intensity of training. Yeah,
yes.
it is. It's every day. It's intense. So for the last 2 years, I've done nothing but my workouts at the club. 3 days a week is all we do, for 50 minutes a time. So that's only 2.5 hours of working out I did a week. And most people do that in a day,
right.
when they train for shows and do things. So it wasn't just a year, because I wanted to say, no, it wasn't just a year, because everything you had was from before that, and then a year you kept it all. Well, yeah, it's true. I did have a base built, and for 2 years, though, all I did was a certain kind of style of training, and I just did a show a few weeks ago, October 4th, and it was great, and it showed that kettlebell training can be adequate. Whether you can say I looked this way or that way, it still showed that it is all you really need if you want to really build yourself up, and it provides adequate stimulation for the muscles to, you know, do that kind of thing, compete, you know,
sure.
in a body, you know, aesthetic
right.
show, when you're really doing a functional training with a functional training tool. And so I just kind of wanted to show myself and show people that, you know, this tool is amazing, and you can do so many things with it, not just, you know, for functionality, but you can also, you know, perform well and look, you know, on stage a certain way if you want to, depending on what your goals are.
So you just moved to West Park Promenade.
Yeah.
So how do people get a hold of you if they're interested in kettlebell training?
Well, they can just give me a call if they want to. My number's right on the front of the window, so I can't hide.
Okay, and you have a website too.
Yeah, billingskettlebellclub.com, and you know, class times are on there, and my information's on there. If you look up Billings and kettlebells, I pretty much come up. So I'm just really excited to be in this new place, because it's just a really great community of people that I've felt have, you know, been really supportive so far. I just really like the feel of the new club. It's really positive and great energy, and that's just how the people are, though. The people at the club are just fantastic people. I couldn't plan it the way it is.
Well, it just seems like everybody's in it to just be their best selves.
Yeah, you should see them. They're really like tremendous people. They're just like, they go for it. They work hard. They're just really into the motion for what it needs to be as far as the motions in their life. You know, kettlebells is a motion. Like, you know, with it is it's a movement, you know, per se, not just a workout. And it's about lifestyle, and they really embrace it and use it every day, and I love hearing their stories, and they're just, you know, they amaze me all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us all about the Billings Kettlebell Club. And everybody, thank you for watching All About Billings, and we hope to see you next time.